Hi, I'm Luann with Rockin Book Reviews, and I'm excited to be here today with a new publisher of Familia's Family books, uh, Christopher Robbins. I'm going to read a brief bio here and listen carefully because you won't believe this guy. Christopher Robbins, the Pater family, Familias, has been in the magazine and book publishing industry for more than 20 years. Most recently, he served as CEO of Gibbs Smith, where he improved sales from $1 million annually to $26 million annually. He also dropped the company's debt to equity ratio from 48 to 1 to less than 1 to 1 in only 5 years. And he also achieved 15 consecutive years of profitability. Christopher helped launch the company's home design line, which is only second to Random House, during the first decade of the 21st century. Charles Kunrat, author of Game of Work and the Better People Leader, called him one of those rare people who can conceptualize outside the box and make the seeming impossible reality. Christopher is married to Michelle Pater.
It's Michelle Robbins.
Okay. Is that where the Pater comes from?
It's a play on words.
Okay. And is the father of 9 children, and whom he spends the majority of his time cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, dishes, and trying to understand his children's homework. He serves on the board of directors of the Independent Book Publishers Association. He serves on the board of directors of Independent Book Publishers Association and Ogden Valley Arts, and has served on the Writers at Work and the BYU Management Society boards. He has presented and lectured at Brigham Young University, the IBPA University, Westminster University, and the Children's Writers Workshop, Writers at Work, the Timpanogos Storytelling Festival, and is published in nonfiction and poetry. Christopher holds a BA and MBA from Brigham Young University, a perennial top 20 football program. Now, I got to ask you, what's that?
Well, it was true until last year. They really were bad. But Brigham Young University has had perennially a very top football program in the NCAA. So quarterbacks like Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco, multiple Super Bowl award winners have come from that school.
Great.
It has nothing to do with book publishing.
Okay. And he is a lover of the simple life. Now, I can't see how you can do the simple life and have all this going. He loves to backpack the mountains of the western United States, fly, fish, cook, garden, spend time with his family, and play his cello. If there is anything new to learn, he is there on the front row. His motto is Carpe Diem. Michelle Lynn Robbins, the Mater Familias, has been the CEO of the Robbins Roost for 22 years, where she has homeschooled each of her 9 children. When she is not running her domestic enterprise, she is found creating unique gifts and enjoying the joys of family life and motherhood. She holds a BA in special education from Brigham Young University. Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, that's an old bio. That's 6 years old. So 6 years have passed since then. So we celebrated our 28-year anniversary now.
28?
28 years we've been married. And
any more children?
No, we stopped at 9.
Okay.
And Familias is now in its 2018 is celebrating its 6th year. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Christopher Robbins, seriously? Did you have to put up with a lot of endless problems in society in your young years?
No, people have always liked my name. As the time passes, fewer of the new generation know who Christopher Robin is. But with the recent release of a couple of movies, Goodbye Christopher Robin and the new one with Ewan McGregor, he's been Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin being reintroduced. And my name is Christopher Robbins. His name was Christopher Robin, written by A. Milne.
Right.
But people have always remembered my name, that I'm in the book publishing industry. So I think it's an advantage.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. You have amazing bio, and I'd like to explore a little bit about the transition from your boyhood to adulthood, namely where you grew up, a little bit about your childhood activities, how many siblings you had, and your favorite activities to do, and so forth.
Sure. So I was born in Maryland. My father was working for Marriott when Marriott was first starting out in actually working with the airport with the airlines. And then we moved to Utah, and I grew up in Holiday, Utah, which was we call it the Camelot years. It was a wonderful neighborhood with many children, and we all grew up together, going to the same grade school, middle school, and high school together. And so a member of the Boy Scouts of America, became an Eagle Scout, spent a lot of time camping, backpacking with those young men. Of course, got into my share of trouble, as some people do, and had good parents. My parents divorced when I was 5 or 6, but my parents were very engaged in my life, and my stepfather was a very kind and loving man, and a very hard worker. Grew up during the Depression, and really helped me understand what a hard day's work was and the value of it was, and was very patient and loving with me. And so I was the beneficiary of talented, intelligent, well-educated parents who instilled in me a love of work, a love of reading. All the gifts I was ever given were books. I wasn't given toys. I was always given a book, and that significantly influenced me. I love the outdoors. My mother was the one who taught me how to fish. My uncle taught me how to fly fish. My stepfather taught me how to camp, and I've taken that love and tried to introduce it to all my children. Just last Saturday, my 14-year-old daughter, and I spent the day fly fishing on the San Joaquin River in the Central Valley of California. So that's kind of a little bit about my childhood. It's just reading, working. I've always had a job selling, whether it was selling vegetables from the garden, selling pigeons that I raised myself, or having a paper route, to working in restaurants. I've always had pocket money.
Did you raise homing pigeons?
I did. I raised Birmingham rollers. Yeah, that was a fun thing to do for a number of years.
My brother did that for a while in Arizona. You don't hear of that anymore.
No.
Okay. Reflect a few minutes on a couple of experiences in your younger life, which has had an impact on you and has had a role in formulating the man you are today.
Sure. Well, one of them, and I just recently wrote him a letter. There was a gentleman by the name of Kevin Watts, who was an architect and since become a residential building entrepreneur out of the West, called Watts Architects. And he was one of my mentors. He taught me the value of preparation. So when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, he spent a significant amount of time with this group of young men. There were 28 of us that grew up together. And he spent a significant amount of time helping us become better young men. And one of the things I remember is how prepared he was in every aspect of his life, whether he was presenting to a city council, whether he was meeting with us on a Sunday church activity or a Boy Scout adventure. He was completely prepared from top to bottom. And that influenced me and wanting to always be prepared for any thing that happened. Another thing was my stepfather. My stepfather really was a man who had a tremendous amount of integrity and a willingness to serve other people. What I learned from him was that service is not it's never convenient. To try to help somebody usually it doesn't happen at a convenient time. But if you go about trying to do good and help somebody else, it does come back to you. And so I think integrity and charity or service from him and preparation from Kevin Watts were two of the things I think have helped influence me in my life.
That's great. A lot of people don't understand how much influence they have over youth.
Yeah.
Your accomplishments are mind-boggling. They're outstanding. You should feel very pleased with what you've done.
Thank you.
How do you possibly do all the things that you do and so involved in community and in work and still help out at the home? What's your secret?
Well, I don't think there is such a thing as a secret, except for here's one thing. My wife and I decided early on in our marriage that we would not have a television. We do not have a television. We do have what I call a movie theater, and we choose what we will watch with the family. So I've always wanted my children to be well read, well listened, and well viewed. So we, as a family, explore a lot of different things where there's music, foreign films, artistic films, as well as just fun films. But we don't spend a lot of time watching movies, or even, we don't watch television at all. And that is, you find out that frees up a significant amount of time if you don't have television. I get up at 5:20 every day. That's another advantage. You'll find that people who accomplish a lot, they get up early, on average about an hour earlier than everybody else. I go to bed around 10:30, so I don't stay up late. So I'm not someone who can work 24 hours a day. I work until I'm tired, and I go to bed around 10:30. It's important to get 7-8 hours sleep. That's another important thing, to have a lot of energy. Following the 7 habits of highly effective people, I prepare for tomorrow today. That's a very important principle. I mean, you got to, plan your work your plan. If you just let things happen, someone else will prioritize your life for you if you let them.
Yeah.
I like to act rather than be acted upon. I don't want people to prioritize my life. I want to prioritize it myself and find time to do things. And just by nature, I'm a very busy person. I don't like to sit still. I always like to get things done. So just like on Saturday, after I got breakfast ready and the family wasn't quite ready to have breakfast yet, I went out and started mowing the lawn until they were ready so that I could come in, because I like to just keep doing things, and that's the secret. But I found that just because someone's busy doesn't mean that they're successful or that they're better than someone else. It just, some people like to do, some people like to think, and so it's different personalities. And it's a wonderful thing to have those in the world and that diversity, because I'm a destination-oriented person. I'm a goal setter. I like to hit that goal. I need people around me who help me enjoy the journey and help me enjoy that adventure. My wife's much more of a journey person. So you need both.
Yeah, you need a balance in life.
Yeah.
That's great that you found that balance in that wonderful wife of yours.
Well, I don't think there is such a thing as balance. I think that the scale is always going like this, because sometimes work is invasive. Sometimes home life is invasive. Sometimes service life is invasive, right? And you just do the best you can, making sure that you do take care of the most important things. And for me, my life with my wife is my most important. Then the next important is my life with my children. And then, of course, I have a career that I take care of. And then, then I can try to do something else. I work with the Boy Scouts, and I work with young men and young women in the community. And, that has to be prioritized. I can't sacrifice my family just to help those young men or young women.
Sounds like you got your priorities right.
Try to.
Yeah, I always hated the term of 50-50 in a marriage, because I found that sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 40-60.
You're right.
We always have to, sometimes we give more, and then other times we have to receive more.
Yeah.
So what is the motivation behind creating your own publishing company of Familias?
Yeah, that's another good question. I've always been entrepreneurial. Like I said, from the time I was a little child, I was selling things. I think that I got a little bit away from my life plan when I was the CEO of Gibbs Smith, and that was because I had a wonderful mentor there whose intention was to have me be a full partner, and that didn't come to fruition. In the meantime, we really developed a wonderful company, and it really was a contributor to many people and to the industry. And I don't regret any aspect of that relationship. But the end intent of that relationship was that I was going to own that company. Well, that didn't work out, and I left that company to found Familius, and I did that because in my heart, I wanted to be my own. I wanted to have my own company. So, and I'd had a couple of false starts already. Entrepreneurs, they don't always succeed first time, second time, or even the 100th time. So I had a couple of false starts that did not work. And so I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I remember being on an airplane flying with a Navy SEAL who had he had since left the Navy SEALs, but he was a consultant now. And he chatted with me and asked me what I did. We talked, and about 3/4 of the way through the flight, he turned to me and he says, I read people really well, and I can read you, and you will not work for this company for much longer. You will probably go start a company. And he was right, and I did. And we've been fortunate that we've been successful. And then I partnered with a friend in California with his company, a wholesale company. And, after 5 years with him, I bought him out. And so now I own those two companies. And I find that I am, if you were to use a sports metaphor, I'm a point guard in basketball. I'm a quarterback in football. I'm most comfortable if I'm in a leadership position. I start to second guess myself if I'm in a secondary position. And so it's better for me to surround myself with smarter people than I am, but be in a position where I can influence the direction in which we're going.
We all need leaders, and we all need those who stand in the background.
Yep.
Okay, and so why the name Familius?
Yeah, this is kind of funny because, so when I left Gibbs Smith, we were doing a lot of books on high-end design, architecture, a few cookbooks, and we did a few kids' books. But my kids would say to me, "Why don't you ever publish a book that I'd read?" So when I founded Familius, I wanted to do, and it was really during the Great Recession, I wanted to do something that took advantage of my knowledge and love of publishing, that took advantage of the disruption that had happened because of the Great Recession. And I wanted to do something that mattered. And I feel that the family is the fundamental unit of society. And that as we strengthen families, we strengthen society, we strengthen countries, we strengthen the world. The family is a really unique petri dish where you can really provide an opportunity to test ideas and educate your children and help them become good citizens, and learn to be tolerant and accepting and loving and knowledgeable. I think that when done appropriately, and I'm still exploring that, it's the most important training ground for the next generation. So that's what I want to do. I want to do something that mattered to the family. So that we start. So I was trying to find a play on words for family, and then I watched a really funny movie, which is a retelling of the Iliad, the Odyssey, really, with George Clooney, called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And it's a really, if you have never seen it, you should see it. It's a very funny movie. And in that film, George Clooney, who plays the Odysseus character, refers to himself as the pater familias, and which is the family father. And so I decided, familias, and so I acquired that name, and then just for fun, we refer to me as the pater familias. Not all the time, but just for fun, periodically.
So that's where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are you concerned with this generation that are like video oriented, and there's less and less book reading? Are you concerned that's going to affect you in the future?
Well, the statistics show that there isn't necessarily less book reading. The book industry's revenue goes up about overall a couple percentage points each year. and it's fairly consistent with population growth. There are a lot of young readers. There's some really wonderful young adult literature that's coming about. I find that children's books are still very popular. Parents want to read to their children. I don't think about video games as, while they're a competitor for time, I realize. My concern more is where the youth are choosing to spend too much time playing video games, living in a virtual world. I also get concerned when the games are violent. I try to teach my children to not participate in anything that suggests that violence is acceptable. And so that's, I work with some of these young men, and I was very excited and grateful when I was able to get 5 of them to work at a Boy Scout camp this summer rather than spend time at home on their video games. So video games can be fun, just like a movie that it's fun to escape from reality for a little while. But too much of it can be for some people addicting, and for others it can be just like a television, a waste of time. We should be anxiously engaged in good causes.
Yeah, we try to reinforce when our children are young, 2-hour limit to watching TV a day, and and when they got their Nintendo, we only allowed an hour and a half on that, because we found that when they spent a lot of time, they got agitated, they fought more, and it was like worked on their nerves. And I'm with you. I am very concerned because I've watched my children and my grandchildren with videos from the time they're just toddlers, and those video games are not harmless. They're destructive, and they're violent, and it's like fight, destroy. And I thought the problem with the society now isn't so much guns as is the violence and stuff that children are raised with from the time they're toddlers. And I know I give my children and grandchildren books for their birthdays and stuff, and I had a young grandson, 7 years old, just approached me and said, "You're going to give him a book for his birthday?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to give him a book." But yes, I'm with you on that. I think the violence is not good. And what is your mission statement for your company?
It's helping families be happy. So we try to acquire and publish books that we think in some way will help families be happy. And that can be anything from helping a family laugh, helping a family cook together, having a relationship. How do we have a better relationship, whether it's a marriage relationship or a child-parent relationship, sibling relationship. It can be, how do you manage money better? It can be health and wellness issues. So it's a very broad spectrum. If we think it can help a family in some way, then we're interested in it. But our focus primarily is relationship-based books and children's books, both board book, picture book, activity book, etc.
I notice right now it's mostly children's or parenting books. Or are you going to implement like young adult fiction?
Yeah, probably not. Fiction is. I like to read fiction. There's some wonderful publishers out there that do some wonderful fiction, and I don't know if I want to play in that space. I think that we're pretty good at what we know how to do, and I think stick to your knitting is a good adage that we should follow.
That sounds good to me. Okay, is there any final word you'd like to add before we close this interview? So help me understand who listens, who's the predominant demographic that listens to your show? Oh, heavens. Just a big variety. I have what my statistics show is 30%, about 30-30. About 30% of are from outside the U.S., Canada, about 30% in Canada, and 30% in the United States. And I I have a lot of, well, it's for family oriented, so I have a lot of viewers from different age groups, and I'm a conservative, so most of my viewers are conservative, but I do have a lot of viewers that aren't real conservative, but I just love them because that's what makes the earth important, is the difference of opinion.
It is important to have, Aristotle said the sign of an educated person is their ability to entertain an idea without having to accept it. Yeah, I really think it's important to surround ourselves with different points of view so that we can consider, ideas that we might not have otherwise. What would I say in closing? I would say that to the parents out there, I have 9 children. And I've seen when you have 9 children, the probability of something bad happening and something good happening just goes up by sheer quantity of children. I would encourage parents to just never be discouraged. They made it through adolescence. Their parents made it through adolescence. Their children are going to make it through adolescence. The most important thing to do is just love your kids. Just love them. Love them. Listen to them. Celebrate their successes, be fascinated with the directions they choose to go. Have family rules. Have counsel with them. Let them explore. But have family rules. That's important. That children need parameters in which to govern themselves. But fill your home with love. We say it from this. There's no more important work than that which you'll do within your own home. Right? That's the most important work you'll do. So there you go.
I'm with you on that. We've got 8 children, and I have one that's in and out of prison, but even he knows that we love him.
Yeah, he's got to love him.
And, and it's kind of neat because every time he gets out of prison or has a new girlfriend, he'll come and introduce them to us, and they say that they hear all about us, and yet you wonder why he makes the choices he makes, but we love him, and that's all you can do. But the other 7 are, well, one died, was killed in a car accident, but then the others we're all very close. Yeah. And I think what you say is true. With the foundation of a strong family unit, then the society is going to be better. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a fantastic day.
You too. And to all of our viewers, we wish you happiness in searching the universe through books. Goodbye for now.